What's going on, everyone? So one of the players that I've talked about, I'd really love to see land on the San Antonio Spurs. I think he could do wonders for this team, not only on his production on the basketball court, but also a guy that could help kind of mentor, grow, develop. I think he'd be really good for a guy in Victor Wembanyama, and that is Al Horford. Now, Al Horford is, based on reports, expected to sign with the Golden State Warriors. That him and DeAnthony Melton, as well as Gary Payton II, are all kind of expected to, once they figure out the Jonathan Kuminga situation, sign contracts with the Golden State Warriors. But that's the thing. Depends on the Jonathan Kuminga situation, because depending on how this plays out, depending on what they end up doing with Jonathan Kuminga and, them getting in certain restrictions and hard caps and stuff, depending on how these types of trades plan out, right? There's even talks about them working out a double sign and trade for a Josh Giddey, right? So there is a potential, there is a version of this where no side is able to figure it out and get it done. And thus, Al Horford's going to need to find a new situation, new environment. Now, again, kind of boils down to, all right, so would Al Horford actually go to the Spurs at that point? Would he be willing to go to a team, or is he going to want to go to a contender? Now, if you're the Spurs, maybe you kind of incentivize him in some other ways, maybe, pay him slightly more, or, kind of, hey, do you want to get into coaching or something? Maybe you can find a way to give them some type of incentive to hey, come here, as opposed to going to a team like the Clippers or the Lakers or the Knicks or whatever, right? One of these teams are going back to Boston. There's also the potential he could just, retire. But look, I mean, if you're the Spurs and you're Greg Popovich and stuff, right? You got relationships with these guys, pick up the phone, call them, hey, what do you think? Come in, let's work this out. Because, hey, this team doesn't, there's not, you look at the roster, right? It's what does this team really need? You're flushed with guards, you're flushed with forwards, you're good in that regard. It's okay, well, even a big man, you really need another big man, right? Because you got several guys that can slot in and play the four at this point. You got Victor Wembanyama, who can slot in at the 5 or the 4. Right? You brought in Kelly Olynyk, who could slot in at the 5 or the 4. Right? And then you got Luke Cornett, who could slot in at the 5. Right? So it's okay, do you really need another big man? I like the versatility of that, and especially as you're starting to see teams kind of load up more on big men. It's kind of becoming more of a trend. The big man is starting to make a comeback here a little bit, which I think could be interesting. See how that all kind of works out and plays out, but it gives you these different looks, these different lineups, these different rotations. And Al Horford's a guy that, again, just gives you experience, gives you a winner, gives you a guy that knows and understands and plays his role, a guy that can stretch the floor, slot in at the 4, slot in at the 5. And I think a guy that would do and help tremendously for somebody like a Victor Wembanyama, somebody that, can help work on his shooting, work on his kind of vision, the way that he works things. Again, Wemby taking pieces from various players and learning and process. Say what you want about Al Horford, right? The guy has had longevity, and that is very hard to do in this league. From, a role player to a star to whatever, right? Al Horford has built a career, and a long career, and has been a sought after player for years, and has been able to adapt and evolve and be a guy that was a huge component and a factor on a 60-win Atlanta Hawk team to, a guy that, was a guy that came off the bench and anchored the defense and helped lead a team to an NBA championship. Right? Those are the kind of things that I think this young Spurs team could go a long way. I think he'd do wonders for guys like Carter Bryant, Jeremy Sohan, right? All these kind of young guys that can come in and kind of learn from a veteran, learn from a player, but he's not just there just to be there, right? He's not just there hogging up a roster spot. He's there to actually play and perform, right? Also, he'd be good depending on, what is the Spurs' goal this year, right? Is it to just kind of develop guys, right? Hey, just we're still in the development stage. Right? Obviously, you're going to develop guys regardless, but is that kind of the main focus this season? Or are you trying to get as many wins as possible? Are you trying to, make the playoffs? Are you trying to stumble and, maybe go on an Indiana Pacer type of run and end up in the NBA Finals? Right? What is the goal and the vision here? Right? Because if you want to kind of increase your chances of making the playoffs, then somebody like an Al Horford, I think, really kind of helps raise the ceiling for you. Right? You want to work on developing guys and all that. Al Horford can kind of help with that. Right? He's a guy that just he's gonna make the winning plays. He's gonna be the guy that can rally the troops and keep everybody kind of together and in line and knows what it takes to get to X, Y, and Z. And you have guys like a De'Aaron Fox on this team and a Harrison Barnes and stuff. So you have these kind of veteran pieces that it doesn't hurt to add in that other veteran guy. Talk about your 15th roster spot. Who are you going to add with that spot that's like, well, that is better than an Al Horford? And I do think he's somebody that, because of his versatility and his ability to slot in at the 4 or the 5, I do think can go a long way. I mean, one of like the biggest spots that is kind of the question mark is the 4 spot, right? Because De'Aaron Fox is your point guard. Wemby is your starting center, right? Now, you could, if you wanted to, move Wemby to your 4 and bring in like a Luke Cornett or something like that as your starting 5 and kind of go that route. But my assumption is that they'll probably go with, Victor Wembanyama at the 5. Okay, so let's just go under that, right? So then you have basically your 1 and 5 locked in. Okay, well then who's the 2? Is it Stephon Castle? Is it Dylan Harper? Is it Devin Vassell? Right, you can make some kind of question marks there. The 3 spot, right? Is it Devin Vassell? Is it Stephon Castle? Is it Carter Bryant? Is it Harrison Barnes? Right? Is it that? Okay, but you have several guys that can play those 2 positions, right? It's just kind of like pick your best option, right? But the 4, it's like, okay, do you go the big route? Do you go with like a Kelly Olynyk and a Victor Wembanyama, or like I said, a Luke Cornett and a Victor Wembanyama? Do you go with like a Jeremy Sohan? Do you go with like a Harrison Barnes? Or you could go with somebody like an Al Horford and have literally, De'Aaron Fox, if you want to try to win as many games as possible, your best bet for like your starting unit is probably De'Aaron Fox, Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Al Horford, and Victor Wembanyama at that point. That's probably the direction I'd go for that. But, we'll see. We'll see how this kind of plays out. But, it's going to be interesting because depending on how this Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga thing shapes up, right, like several of these guys could end up going other places. And not just that, but you also have the Sacramento scenario where, that could literally cause a entire domino chain reaction that could lead to all kinds of guys getting bought out or traded or whatever. So, Spurs could be in an interesting spot. Just continue to remain patient, but I really like the idea of bringing in an Al Horford personally. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.